For years now, the Iranian Australian community and other victims of the IRGC, including Dr. Kylie Moore Gilbert, have been literally screaming, yelling and screaming at rallies, to our local MPs, in parliamentary consultations, and in reports to the National Security Hotline that Iranian agents are operating brazenly and with few consequences here on Australian soil. Overseas, we have seen numerous incidents of Iran contracting organized crime to conduct attacks on journalists, dissidents, and targets within the Jewish community. Many of us have long been saying that an Iranian hand lies behind some of the anti-Semitic attacks which have proliferated here in Australia since October 7th. We have a Senate inquiry dating back to 2023 to 2024 recommending the IRGC be prescribed as a terrorist organization. We have been calling for more than a year for Assad Saghihi, the Iranian ambassador, to be expelled from Australia due to his repeated anti-Semitic remarks on social media and due to his embassy's sinister role in sponsoring the surveilling of dissidents here in Australia. I personally have petitioned two foreign ministers to sanction the IRGC officials directly complicit in the wrongful detention and effective hostage taking of myself, Dr. Kylie Moore Gilbert, and at least 4 other Australian citizens with no response. Now, finally, the government is taking action, only because they have to. Dr. Kylie Moore Gilbert applauds Anthony Albanese and Wong for stepping up and taking decisive action against a brutal regime which has long shown itself to be an enemy of the Australian people. It's such a shame that it's taken them so long. So if you guys weren't already aware, yesterday Anthony Albanese, Penny Wong, and the ASIO counter-terrorism official came out and said that they are expelling the Iranian ambassador because the Iranian ambassador, as well as Iran, were responsible for 2 known terrorism attacks, one on a synagogue in Melbourne and a cafe or a restaurant in Sydney, Bondi. And they have credible evidence, according to ASIO, Anthony Albanese, and Penny Wong, that it was Iran that was responsible for those attacks. Now, I don't know about you, but I've got lots of questions about this particular incident. Number one, why did it take them so long? Why didn't they listen to people that actually have been screaming about this for a very, very long time? Thirdly, I should ask, why did Iran purposefully target that one particular synagogue in Melbourne and that restaurant in Bondi? Seems rather interesting to me, doesn't it? That those 2 locations. I mean, we have other terrorism or anti-Semitic attacks on several other synagogues and restaurants. And I mean, hell, you just look at the pro-Palestinian marches every single damn weekend. The problem that I have with Anthony Albanese doing this right now is, why is he doing this right now? First and foremost. And secondly, why didn't he listen for a very, very long time to people that actually knew and were victims of the Iranian regime? And also, why is he getting up there acting like he's the leader we all want him to be, but he's not? Why is he getting up there and acting tough when he's been responsible for letting these people into the country? He hasn't been keeping tabs on them. I mean, hell, you've got the pro-Palestinian marches every single weekend waving terrorism flags, and nothing is done. And yet he wants to get up there and he wants praise for expelling the Iranian ambassador over anti-Semitic attacks. Fantastic. It should have been done a long time ago. Why wasn't it? Problem is, you're not listening. You're allowing and protecting these people. And when it finally comes out, oh no, crap, I've actually got to do something about this, immediately goes, you know what, this I've always said. No. It's one thing to always say that anti-Semitism is not allowed in Australia. It's another thing to put measures in place to stop it from even occurring in the first place, namely letting in 1,500 people every single damn day, which a vast majority of them, we don't even know where they're coming from. Your foreign minister, Tony Burke, for example, has approved countless visas. I've made quite a few videos about it already. He's approved visas of known terrorists. How about the guy on Sydney Harbour Bridge waving the terrorism flag that has been in prison for 4 years, known for recruiting people to commit acts of terrorism? What about him? See, police should know. I mean, the community is frustrated and annoyed. I mean, today I saw a video about this as well, that a known streamer is calling for a terrorism attack on August 31st. You know, I'm actually pretty worried about the Sydney Marathon because Iran, after this, Iran has vowed for retaliation. And on Sunday, we have the biggest marathon, one of the biggest events in Australia taking place. And then also after the marathon, you have the protest taking place, the March for Australia protest. And these people are getting up there and calling for terrorism attacks to take place on Australian soil. And I hope and I pray that that person is taken into custody and charged. You cannot get away with this kind of stuff in Australia. This should not be allowed in Australia. The Iranian regime is vowing retaliation. I saw in the news today as well. People are praising Anthony Albanese over this. And I'm just going, no, it should have been done a very long time ago. We should have known a long time ago because we should have listened to people like Kylie Moore-Gilbert, for example, and many others. But they don't. Until it's too late. Until there's attacks. They don't listen. And then they go, oh, we care about people's safety here in Australia. No, you don't. If you really did care about people's safety, you wouldn't be letting these people in the first place. Hello? Here's what Anthony Albanese had to say yesterday during the press briefing.
Since the terrible events of October 7, 2023, we have witnessed a number of appalling anti-Semitic attacks against Australia's Jewish community. I've made it clear that these sorts of incidents have no place in Australia and that I wanted ASIO and the AFP to investigate as a priority. ASIO has now gathered enough credible intelligence to reach a deeply disturbing conclusion that the Iranian government directed at least 2 of these attacks. Iran has sought to disguise its involvement, but ASIO assesses it was behind the attacks on the Lewis Continental Kitchen in Sydney on October 20 last year and the Adass Israel Synagogue in Melbourne on December 6 last year. ASIO assesses it is likely Iran directed further attacks as well. These were extraordinary and dangerous acts of aggression orchestrated by a foreign nation on Australian soil. They were attempts to undermine social cohesion and sow discord in our community. It is totally unacceptable and the Australian government is taking strong and decisive action in response. A short time ago, we informed the Iranian ambassador to Australia that he would be expelled. We have suspended operations at our embassy in Tehran and all our diplomats are now safe in a third country. I can also announce the government will legislate to list Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, as a organisation. I've said many times that the Australian people want 2 things. They want killing in the Middle East to stop, and they don't want conflict in the Middle East brought here. Iran has sought to do just that. They have sought to harm and terrify Jewish Australians and to sow hatred and division in our community. The actions of my government send a clear message, a message to all Australians that we stand against anti-Semitism and we stand against violence, and a message to nations like Iran who seek to interfere in our country, that your aggression will not be
We
tolerated.
stand against anti-Semitism, guys. We stand against it. So does that mean you're going to put an end to the pro-Palestinian protests that are taking place every single bloody weekend? Because to me, when they're chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, when they're not stopping, when they're chanting death to Israel, death to the IDF, and all these other things, that to me, or when they're waving the Hamas flag, when they're wearing the Hamas bandanas, when they're actually chanting for the destruction of Israel, does that not count as anti-Semitism, Prime Minister? You just claim that you don't stand for it. So why are you allowing it to take place on our streets every single weekend? It's one thing to stand up there and condemn anti-Semitism. It's another thing to actually do something about it. Sure. Okay. If you know that Iran is responsible for at least 2 attacks, don't you think that Iran will be responsible for more, or that they have actual other agents here in Australia working, or that people that are part of the pro-Palestinian marches every single weekend aren't actually part of the Iranian terrorism regime? I mean, they were marching on Sydney Harbour Bridge with Ayatollah Khomeini's photograph, for goodness sake, and that was at the front with Bob Carr. I think Bob Carr, the former Premier of New South Wales and also the former Foreign Minister, look at this. So Bob Carr's there, along with Julian Assange, and they're waving the terrorism flag, and they're holding the photo of Ayatollah Khomeini. Okay, and we don't see any problem with that at all. And now we're listing Iran and the Revolutionary Guard, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, as a terrorism organization. And they're marching with the guy. They do it every single weekend. So to me, I just can't stand the hypocrisy and the double standards of our government. And everyone's just clapping away and cheering Prime Minister Anthony Albanese for his swift and decisive action. It took him months. Sure, you're getting ASIO to do an investigation. It's taken him months when you have people like Kylie Moore-Gilbert and many others that have been screaming this for years. They just don't listen. And then finally something happens and they're like, oh, okay, we've actually got to do something about this. You know, the thing I like about Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, the thing that he said was, you don't allow terrorism to attack first. You wipe it out first. But no, we're just doing a reaction. That's our thing. We'll retaliate. We're sitting ducks. You know that. The Jewish community were going, they were warned. The Jewish community warned the government. And not even just the Jewish community, but people that actually have been victims of the Iranian regime. So what's going on? And after this, Iran vows reciprocal reaction after Australia expels Iranian ambassador. Iran has vowed to take reciprocal action, with Iranian Foreign Minister spokesperson Ismaili Bakeli saying the accusation that has been made is absolutely rejected. And any inappropriate and unjustified action on a diplomatic level will have a reciprocal reaction, Bakari added during a weekly press conference. Right. Bakari says the measures appeared to be influenced by internal developments in Australia, including widespread protests against Israel's war in Gaza. Well, I don't not disagree with that statement, actually. It seems rather intriguing to me, though. But when I've got, like, let's look at this from a logical perspective, right? So you've got Iran being blamed for the 2 terrorism attacks, which you know that Iranian regime is an Islamic regime of hate trying to destroy Israel. Then you have the pro-Palestinian protest every single damn weekend. They're waving the T-Rizm flags and they're holding up the Ayatollah Khomeini, part of Iran. So yes, it is influenced for sure by internal developments in Australia, including widespread protests of Israel's war in Gaza. I think Iran is operating as part of those protests 100%. And obviously, this has been influenced by it. A little bit, I would have to say. But they're not doing anything about the protests, because why would they do something about the humanitarian protests, people? They would never do such a thing. Meanwhile, we've got Iran, and we're sitting ducks. Iran funds terror. And they've got agents all over the place. And we've got goodness knows how many pro-Islamic terrorists in Australia. Vast majority of them were marching for Palestine. Seems like a lot of this is linked, doesn't it? It's scary stuff. As an Australian citizen, seeing this in my own country, no less. A state over from me as well. And what is Anthony Albanese doing? Wants to take swift and decisive action, and anti-Semitism has no place in society. The guy is one of the biggest cowards and spineless leaders Australia's ever seen. He should have listened long ago. Now, I hope that the organisers of the Sydney Marathon are fully aware of these developments and will be taking actual action to protect all of the runners on Sunday, because that's important. Can't have Boston. Anyway, that's enough from me, but you guys take care, be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.